So, Newport's been placed under local lockdown. I don't think this was necessary. Many people do, many people don't. I don't think it'll work, and I don't think it was necessary, as if you look at many places in England, they have not done the same as what we've done here. The Welsh Government has taken a more tougher approach, but it's not going to work. Yeah, carry on. But anyway, there's still people going out exercising, but anyway, schools are still open. Not the best decision. Schools have had, at least about 16 schools in the Newport area alone have had confirmed cases, and yet they blame household mixing, they blame pubs, they'll blame anything else but schools, and I think that's really unfair. And they don't. I think responsibility goes with all this goes to the government, obviously. I don't think people are to blame, because people have been told to go out, people have been told to go back to work, people have been told to basically go back to normal. So it's unfair to put the blame on people for this situation. Yeah, that's an ambulance. But at the moment, the rise in cases compared to other areas such as Bolton has been relatively low. But in terms of Wales, it's been fairly high. But I still think the Newport, unless you outside of schools, its community transmission in the area is low. And this was an unnecessary decision. Obviously, I'll get other people's opinions on that, and that is just my opinion. So don't take it to heart. I'm not saying it's a fact. I'm just saying that's my opinion. Do I think schools are responsible for the local rise in cases? Yes. Yes and no. It depends which area. Newport, yeah, I do. Because we've many schools in East Newport. We've had Eveswell has had a case. There's been cases in St Gabriel. There's been a case in St Gabriel's. There's been a case in Liswerry High School. I'm not sure if there's been any in Llanwern. I'm not really sure, but I know there's been one in Glanes School, St Julian's. So there's been quite a few different schools in Newport that have had confirmed cases. I believe the figure is 16 different schools. I'm not sure how many individual cases in each school. They haven't released that information online, but they're still blaming pubs, they're still blaming household mixing, and I don't think that's fair. Does it make sense? Do I think it makes sense to travel right across Newport, but areas neighbouring Newport that you live literally walking distance from, you can't walk to them or you can't drive to them? No, I don't think that makes sense, because communities like Caerleon and Pontiac, they're right next to each other. So communities like Rogerstone, Risca, and say if you're down near Penhow, you're right next to Cewent, Llanfairpwllgwyngyllgoed, which are in Monmouthshire. So it is a confusing. That's a confusing issue, and it's not really going to be enforced either. People travelling between the different local authorities like Torfaen, Caerphilly, Monmouthshire from Newport, or Caerphilly I know is also under local lockdown, but it hasn't made a difference. I know people in Caerphilly, and I know there's been people travelling between Caerphilly, so to me that's not going to make a difference. Right. Do I think the measures are implemented have been effective? No, I don't. I really don't. And I think the whole decision is not going to make any difference to anyone. People will still be doing what they want to do. For me, I still got things I can do. I'm still a filmmaker. I can still go into town. There's no restrictions on using public transport, so as long as I stay within my local authority, I'm still able to go into town, I'm still able to go to Spitty. If I want to go over to Ringland, I still can, or over the other side of Newport, I'm still able to do that. So it does affect me, but it doesn't seem quite as intrusive as when lockdown first started, and it doesn't seem as stringent. Because the pubs are still open, I can go for a pint if I wanted to, but I just can't go in a pub with anyone outside my household, which doesn't massively make a difference to me, because I believe you're still allowed to go outside. You're still allowed to go outside of a pub with people you don't live with. Correct me on that, but that's what I think. Do you think that local lockdowns in Newport, or here in Wales, or here in Newport, will have an effect on businesses? Yeah, definitely. Especially ones on the high street, such as Breeze, the Courtyards, the pub. A lot of those sorts of businesses in the city centre are definitely going to be affected by this lockdown. You'll have less people. You won't have anyone coming from out of town spending no money. They close earlier. Whereas the pubs out here, like the Man of Gwent, as I said, the Labour Club, or more local pubs, are not going to be affected so much. The Labour Club closes at 11:30 anyway, so I don't think that'll be affected. The New Inn, they're not open too late, not normally. They're not open till the early hours. It's only like the nightclub sort of pubs in the city centre, like Hogarth's and Breeze and Courtyard, that are going to see the effect of this. Do you think it's fair that families have been banned from meeting in each other's homes, but children are still being sent to packed classrooms? No, it's not really fair. Families should still have the right to see each other. Like say people, especially if people live alone, they're just left isolated from everyone. They need to be able to see their family members, go over to their parents' house or something. When children are all packed into these classrooms, they're the ones who are spreading the virus. People that are children like that, being forced to go to school, and they're packed into classrooms, hardly any social distancing, hardly any of them are wearing masks, and they're pouring out at the end of school, and they're spreading the virus about. And that's what's caused this, sadly, I believe that's what's caused this outbreak here in Newport. Schools. And I know the staff down at the Abbeyfield Nursing Home Green Court down in Liswerry, and a lot of them believe this to be linked to schools as well. And but I know that the government have said that it's they've said it was linked to a house party back in August. I don't believe that to be true. I think it's due down to schools, and it's down to the government shoddy management of this situation, of this pandemic. Do you think schools should be closed? Yeah, I do. I think schools should definitely be closed. I think the fact that you want to see children pouring out of classrooms, pouring out a lesson, their break times when they finish school, they literally come out in gangs out of school. I know it's not the children's fault, because this is a weird situation for them, just as much as anyone else. Mainly it's the fact that the government have sent them back to school, and the schools have not tried their best to put the measures in place to protect the children, stop children from getting it, and then they'll spread it to their families, to their grandparents, to their brothers and sisters who are probably in college. They'll spread it around the college then, and then everyone starts getting it. Why do you think Newport has seen a rise in cases? I think that's down to people coming from abroad, flying back from Greece and without self-isolating, coming through Cardiff Airport, and then they're coming straight back to Newport, bringing back all these cases here. And then you see all these, and they're breaking self-isolation, which they're not allowed to do, but they're getting away with it because it's not being managed efficiently. And then you see children going back to school, as I've mentioned, and the measures are not there in place in schools for children to be safe. On public transport, in pubs, especially in England, I've been over the border to Bristol and up north to the north of England, Stockport and Sheffield, and when you're not sat at your table, you've got to wear a mask, and to be fair, most people have been doing that. And in shops here in Wales, any supermarket you go into, it's compulsory in Wales now to wear a face covering. If you're over the age of 11 and you're going in a shop, you've got to wear a face covering. And to be fair, I've seen a couple of people not wearing them, but most people have been wearing them. Most people have been responsible and chucked one of these on. So it's down to people coming from abroad, people being allowed to travel, having air bridges, and children going back to school, and then things combined have led to a rise in cases. In Wales, pubs and restaurants reopened indoors on the 3rd of August, and in England on the 4th of July. And at that time, we didn't see a rise in cases. But now, ever since schools are reopened and everyone started booking holidays, we've seen a much bigger rise in cases than we did back then. So if you look at what times the rise in cases have happened, it's happened because people have been travelling abroad, a lot more people have been travelling abroad, and the kids have been sent back to school. And I believe that's the cause of the local lockdown here in Newport and the local lockdowns in other counties here in South Wales.
Right. What's business been like then during
Who are you filming for?
documentary?
It's been quiet.
Quiet?
Yeah,
Very quiet.
I thought so. I mean, seeing time today though, it's full.
Yeah.
But we're all working on our eviction notices as well, so we've only got the 30th of October, so half the people have no backup.
Everything's changing, isn't it?
Yeah. Not for the better.
So what's going on with that anyway, the big change they're doing to the market? Or?
You filming now?
Yeah.
You're filming now? I don't want to be in an interview.
You don't want to be in it?
Yeah, I'll see you in a bit.
So what's going on with this big change anyway?
Well, they're going to spend 30.5 million
30.5 million?
on the market. I don't think anyone on the inside have signed up because of the 5-year lease and the extortionate rents. But they think it's progress. We don't.
No, I wouldn't say so.
We'll all be moving out, so we'll find somewhere else.
I've been used to it the way it is anyway for all these years.
It's been systematically run down for years. This hasn't popped up over the last 2 years. This has been in the pipeline for ages.
Not good.
No. We're troopers, we'll survive.
Yeah, somewhere else to go with.
Yeah. All the best, mate.
You too, mate.
Yes, I certainly do. Yes, some of them are. Yes, they should never have opened the school, never. Yes, I think so, Sam, yeah. I think it... Well, I'm hoping so, but the children still being in school, I don't know about that. I don't think they should have let the children back to school. Well, I think there will be more this time because Newport is very high at the moment. Yes, it's bound to, Sam. Most of the shops will be shutting and people won't be frightened to go into town in case they mix with anyone. Well, I don't believe in children being sent to classrooms, but I still think it should be banned at homes. Certainly I do. Yes. Well, it's the people going abroad and coming back and not being checked. And also people who are having parties in the garden, all mixing together. And I think that's one of the cause of the rise in coronavirus in Newport. I do really.